Say, kids, what time is it?
It's kind of like watching TV, but, in your car.
104.7 The Cave, Mike the Intern, Jay Stevens, episode 163, Dark Side of the Stream. This week, we did Jay's pick, or was this my pick? I think this was my pick. Was this one? Wait. If this is 163, then it is my pick. I just stole it from Jay. And it's called,
that means I have to have a pick today. Okay.
He's always watching documentaries. Like, hey, man, watch this one. And I'm like, oh, that actually sounds good. But either way, it was called Till Murder, Do Us Part, Soaring versus Haysom. And it tells the story of two kids who were in college, in love, that may have done some very bad things.
What a roller coaster ride this
What
one
a roller coaster ride of a story this one is, my man.
Yeah, pretty wild story.
It all starts with kids who come from a lot of money, power, and influence going to the University of Virginia. And before we get into this story, I think it's very obvious from the get-go with these two individuals who we're going to talk about in this episode that they come from privilege. And when it comes to people like that, right, in this world that come from a lot of money, a lot of power, a lot of influence, do you get the feeling that they feel like they can do whatever the hell they want?
Yeah, that still goes on, rings true today, of course. But this one is, he was like hyper intelligent as well.
He was hyper intelligent,
like incredibly intelligent.
But I think that maybe she was just as intelligent and or as manipulative,
very intelligent as well, and
as
also,
he was,
and incredibly manipulative. What the hell was that?
They're so smart when we're talking about them, and they use their brain power to knock the phone over.
And it doesn't have a case, so it's gonna be.
So Jay's gonna use my keys to
I'm
prop it up.
I'm gonna hope your keys solve this riddle.
But that's what I wanted to start in this first segment and discuss is that, one of the things, that gets my feathers riled up is when I see people that use their influence and power for bad. And this is an example of two people that really out of the get-go could have been busted, but because of their power, influence, and money, were able to kind of just skirt it for a little bit. Eventually they would be brought to justice, but when you see this happen with, regular people, it's usually an open and shut case immediately. But there was a lot of wheels, a lot of traveling, a lot of searching, a lot of legal,
a lot of weirdness,
a lot of stuff that happened in this story. But it brings me back to, you think that had something to do with the power and influence that these people had?
I mean, I guess the weirdest part of the documentary is how it starts. It starts with talking about murders, and then it shows them getting out of jail all these years later. So it's like, it almost teases you, because then you're like, as you're watching, like, there's no way they're getting out. Like, there's no way they're getting out of jail. This is crazy.
They were incarcerated for almost 20 years, both of them, and then since have been released and sent back to their respective countries. The woman back to Canada, the man back to Germany.
Real weird.
But again, like I said, I think this went a lot longer than it should have, probably because of the amount of money these two people and influence. I mean, the guy's dad was a diplomat. The woman's parents, who ended up being killed, had just gobs and gobs of money, old money. So it's again where you get into the situation where, when you look at it from the perspective of just a guy that lives in the Midwest America, it's like, how in the hell could you guys pull this off and get away with this for so long?
Wild,
money.
It was a wild ride, dude.
Stuff that we don't have, but we're going to discuss it today. Dark Side of the Stream, Till Murder Do Us Part, returns next on 104.7 The Cave. Mike the Intern, Jay Stevens back in the studio. Dark Side of the Stream, episode 163, discussing Till Murder Do Us Part, on Netflix, by the way. I don't think I mentioned that last time.
Did you say that money and brains, things that we don't have?
What we're working on it.
I mean, is that all we got going for us?
Depending on what your cup of tea is.
Oh my gosh.
You got the bad boy and you got the dad here. Either way.
3.
Whatever. You got two flavors to pick.
Talent?
From. Dad or bad boy. Discussing Till Murder Do Us Part. Now, we've gone over the influence and power. Let's get to the story. You got these two kids that come from really good pedigree. I mean, one of them is the son of a diplomat who ends up coming back to the United States, goes to the University of Virginia. You got the other one who is also the daughter of two very, very wealthy people from Nova Scotia. They're from Canada. She ends up going to University of Virginia. They meet, they fall in love.
He was definitely out of his league on this chick. He overshot the goalpost. He was a nerd, dude.
We're going to talk about brains versus blonde.
This dude was a super nerd.
I don't know how this guy pulled this chick in, because she, even now, like when she got released, I was like, man, she's still kind of a looker.
Still
even
bangable
at
for
being,
sure, yeah.
if that's
For
what you want to
sure.
call it. She wasn't too bad for a woman that spent 19 years of her life in prison. But yeah, Elizabeth not doing too bad. She currently lives in Canada. So if you're looking for a honey up there, well, that might be the one. Just FYI, there are some red flags involved. But yeah, so basically what happens is they find these two people who have been brutally murdered. I mean, it's not just like they were
Yeah.
sleeping and you put a pillow over the head and you shot them.
This was
Like we're talking multiple stab wounds,
dragged around.
bodies moved,
Oh.
neck sliced.
Oh, yeah,
I
necks-
mean,
yeah, it was-
it's crazy to think that two people coming from this kind of pedigree could have this inside of them to pull this off, especially the woman who was there when this happened.
I had a hard time prepping the turkey. You know?
Yeah, dude. I was like,
get
I
grossed
gotta
out
do what
doing
to that
that.
frog? No way, man. I'm out. I'm going to home
I
ec,
gotta
dude.
pull the bag of gizzards out of the middle of this thing. Oh, yeah.
I gotta put that fish in what? The worm? Nah, thanks. Either way, I don't care about that stuff. But when it comes to stabbing living, breathing human beings, I'm definitely not into that. So basically,
Have you ever done it?
what, stab somebody?
Yeah.
No.
Oh, just
Maybe
checking.
myself on
Oh,
accident.
I'm just checking.
So basically, they find the couple stabbed to death. Both of them were almost decapitated because of how bad they
it was
killed
a
them.
gnarly scene.
But once they discovered them, it had been days. It wasn't like they came in the next day and they're like, "Oh my God, this just happened."
It took a
It
while.
had been multiple days.
Oh, could you imagine the smell in there? Blood alone
Lot to
smells
clean up.
gnarly, not let alone all over the house.
I can't even
for
imagine
days.
the cleaning bill on that one. And by the way, most of the time the police don't do it. It's like they'll do their investigation.
No, they bring in a crew,
and then
dog.
they walk away, and it's like,
That's the
homeowners,
job to have.
You couldn't even. You're talking about dissecting a turkey. I put stuff in a turkey, and now you want to go clean up crime scenes, dude? No way. I'm sorry, bro. You're not going to get that job. But yeah, so in that timeline, they figure out that these two had rented a car and run, and actually, it took them a while to not only locate them, but then to arrest them, and then to get both of them brought back to justice, which would then lead to a pretty landmark case involved in this whole picture that got brought. And we're talking about extradition here and the death penalty, and we'll talk about that next. Dark Side of the Stream on 104.7 The Cave. Mike the Intern, Jay Stevens in the studio. Dark Side of the Stream, episode 163, discussing Till Murder Do Us Part. So, okay, murders happen. These two young birds are on the run.
They got some different stories.
They actually were not initially a suspects. The woman actually organized all the details for her parents' funerals. It must take some kind of special person to be able to off your parents and then bury them in the ground. But then
again, we're not even sure. I mean, in the end, I'm not even sure if she did it or he did it.
So that's the thing. Neither
really
one of them
wacky.
are talking.
He confesses and then he doesn't confess. Like, wow, man.
I think love had a part to do with it. I think they were both, personally, after watching this thing, I think they're both in on it together. We have no other reason to believe
That's
that.
what I feel like.
I think that it was just two really bad situations that became a really, really bad situation.
And then it's crazy though that they get out of jail, both of them.
But
So,
again,
wow.
like, well, we'll get to that in a second.
Wow, man.
Because that obviously was an issue too. But the couple goes on the run, and again, I think they both had something to do with it. They both get caught in England. She gets sent back to the United States, but he fights extradition on the basis that in the state of Virginia, they have the death penalty. So he's saying, well, now I'm a German national. You can't take me there because they're going to kill me if I get convicted of this.
Yeah,
And
what a loophole that is, right?
So then there's this huge back and forth legal battle to bring him back. And then a landmark case essentially gets set where they establish extradition based on this case from Germany to the United States, with the caveat that he will not be put to death.
Wild, man.
So they got their man. Did they get him 100% like they wanted? I don't think so. But then they would be brought back to the United States, where they both would be found guilty of these crimes, whether it was her or him. It doesn't matter. They were both involved. I don't care if you're sitting there and some guy's pushing you to off your parents. If you let it go along with it, you're now involved.
Yeah,
if your girlfriend is telling you, hey, help me kill my parents, and you don't say, this chick's crazy, I don't care what she does to me,
you got a good point.
I'm getting out of here. Again, you're involved. That's just the way it looks. That's just the way it is. I don't see any other explanation.
It's worth watching just for the roller coaster ride of who did it, who didn't do it, who did it. It's amazing. It's like,
and at the end of the day, I think we both agree that they were both involved.
First, I mean, you had to be, right?
There's so
They
much.
tried to throw some other characters in there towards the end that could have done it. Like,
I'm sorry,
dude,
you two were involved.
wild. Man.
That's it. I don't know what else to say. It's just
Wild.
crazy. But again, it goes back to what we started talking about. Money, power, influence kind of gave these kids a head start, and they were able to do that because of what they had. Eventually, they would.
Hard to stay on the run
Be,
internationally if you got
they-
$3 in your account.
Yeah, dude, or I got $5 in my pocket.
Let's
Let's see how far
go.
we can get there. Hey, you guys need a singer tonight? I need some cash, hard cash. So anyway, they get convicted. They both serve up to 19 years. I think she was eligible for parole first. But then eventually in 2019, the governor announced they both would be released, not pardoned, and sent back to their countries. He got a lot of flack for this.
I'm sure he did, man.
One of the U.S. reps of the state was like, this is not cool at all. The only reason you're doing this is because you're trying to cut costs. And in reality, though, at that point, like the governor does have a point. We're going to keep paying for these people to survive. Send them back to Canada or Germany. It's their problem now.
Pretty wild, man.
You know, people get less for murder in this country. I mean, you've seen guys, I've watched Unsolved Mysteries for a while. You'll see guys that get convicted and they're out in 7 years, 9 years. I mean, the justice system is a very convoluted and crazy mistress. And we'll talk about our reviews next. Dark Side of the Stream on 104.7 The Cave. 104.7 The Cave. Mike the intern, Jay Stevens back in the studio one more time. Dark Side of the Stream, episode 163, discussing Till Murder Do Us Part. So how many geeky, nerdy guys with glasses from Germany would you give this
I'm going
documentary?
4 on this just because of the roller coaster ride.
It's a great true crime story, and it has a lot of levels. It has a lot of layers.
A lot of levels and layers.
And again, they leave it out to you to decide, you know, what you think, which again, I think it was a little bit of both. Interestingly enough, there is a law in Germany where he cannot say anything about her and her involvement in this.
Yeah.
Which
really.
I want to know what that law is. Like, is it like so bad that you can't even just say like, I think that dude did it. Like you can't even, that's like a liable lawsuit that you're just like, boom, you're getting in trouble.
It was, once again, we've talked about it many times. It's just, if you see red flags in a relationship, dip out, because this is an example of how bad it can go.
Well, the only problem with that theory and that practice is that if you both have red flags, who's going to be the one to say, "Hey, I see a red
At that
flag"?
point, they look
Well,
like
he's got
they
a
look
red
like
flag too.
race car flags.
They're both just waving their red flags going down the road
I guess
together.
if you're just you feel like that's.
I'd say about the same, 3.5, 4 nerdy guys with glasses on this
good.
one.
It was
It's a good
good.
story. It's short. It's a lot to
got some
unfold.
time to
I think
kill.
it was hilarious after you complaining about picking the Menudo documentary. I got to read it with subtitles. I don't know anything
Well,
about Spanish. And
This
then you
one
pick this
had
one.
subtitles though.
A bunch of German in this one.
The Menudo one, I couldn't get subtitles on, so I'm sitting there just listening to a guy talk Spanish to me for half an hour.
Dude, it's so good. Well, for me, who is relearning Spanish right now, it was a dream come true. Either way, we are going to watch for our next Dark Side of the Stream a documentary my buddy Chris Bonafarte told me about. It's called Escaping Twin Flames, and it's about a cult. I had no idea. It's essentially a cult that is all online for the most part.
Okay,
Deals with people that are looking for their twin flame, because according to these guys, when you're born, you only have one true twin flame.
Ooh.
And that might be another guy or another girl.
I think Mike and I found ours right here.
We are the twin flames. Mike and Jay are burning bright
No
together.
escaping. This is our cult.
Either way, Escaping Twin Flames on Netflix is your homework assignment. Watch us do this live on Facebook or YouTube every Thursday at 9. Download these as a free podcast, or tell your mom to download them off of our 104.7 The Cave app. I'm Mike the intern. This is Jay Stevens reminding you
we watch movies,
documentaries, so you don't have to. It's Dark Side of the Stream on 104.7 The Cave.